What is the story you tell yourself to justify your own patterns? The narrative that quietly explains away your sudden defensiveness, your need for control, or that recurring feeling of being misunderstood. What if these aren't just personality quirks, but psychological signatures written in the language of the stars? Today, we are not just exploring sun signs. We are diving into the hidden mental architecture of each zodiac archetype. We will uncover the one core psychological weakness that each sign is predisposed to, not as a flaw, but as a doorway to deeper self-awareness. This is the shadow side of your greatest strengths, a vulnerability so woven into your being that you might not even see it. Until now. Before we begin, a crucial note: this content blends psychological patterns with astrological archetypes. It is a lens for introspection, not a rigid diagnosis. We are here to understand, not to judge. Your personal story is always more complex than your sun sign alone. Let us begin our journey, starting with the first sign of the zodiac. Aries. Your core psychological weakness is impulsive self-assertion. The root is a deep-seated fear of being irrelevant or powerless. This develops from the primal Aries drive to establish the self, to be first, to act. But psychologically, it can manifest as a reflex to dominate a conversation, a situation, or a decision before you've fully processed it. In daily life, this shows as cutting people off, launching projects without a safety net, or feeling intensely irritated by any perceived delay. It is triggered by feelings of being stifled, controlled, or overlooked. The subtle strength hidden within this weakness? It is the raw, unfiltered courage of instinct. That very impulse, when harnessed with a moment of pause, becomes the spark of true initiative and fearless leadership. Which flows us into the fixed earth sign that follows. Taurus. Your core psychological weakness is psychological rigidity. The root is an emotional need for security so profound that the unknown becomes a threat to your very sense of stability. This develops from the Taurus archetype's love for the tangible, the reliable, the pleasurable. In behavior, it shows as stubbornness, not out of spite, but from a deep mental discomfort with altering a proven path. You may cling to relationships, jobs, or beliefs long past their expiration date simply because the alternative is unfamiliar. It is triggered by sudden change, perceived loss of control over your environment, or pressure to decide quickly. The hidden strength here is profound resilience and loyalty. That very capacity to dig in, when directed consciously, becomes the unwavering fortitude to build something lasting and real. Next, we encounter the mutable air. Gemini. Your core psychological weakness is cognitive fragmentation. The root is a mental anxiety that you might miss something, leading to a restless pursuit of intellectual stimulation. This develops from the Gemini drive to connect, communicate, and perceive all sides. Yet psychologically, it can scatter your energy and focus into 1,000 pieces. In daily life, this manifests as starting many projects and finishing few, presenting contradictory ideas, or creating a surface-level social network that lacks depth. It is triggered by boredom, routine, or emotional situations that demand sustained, singular focus. The subtle strength within this chaos is brilliant adaptability and intellectual synthesis. Your mind's ability to jump between concepts, when anchored, becomes the gift of seeing connections no one else can. Now, to the cardinal water sign. Cancer. Your core psychological weakness is defensive emotionality. The root is a profound vulnerability to perceived emotional rejection or abandonment, linked to the Cancerian archetype of the protective shell. This develops from your deep capacity to feel, which requires a defense mechanism. In behavior, it shows as moodiness, passive aggression, or withdrawing completely when hurt, rather than addressing conflict directly. You may take things personally that aren't personal, guarding your soft interior with a hard exterior. It is triggered by criticism, emotional coldness, or feeling your care is not reciprocated. The hidden strength is extraordinary emotional intelligence and nurturance. That very sensitivity, when you feel safe, becomes the power to heal and hold space for others with true empathy. We move to the fixed fire. Leo. Your core psychological weakness is egoic fragility. The root is a hidden fear of being ordinary, unseen, or unworthy of admiration. This develops from the leonine need to express the authentic, creative self in a radiant way. Psychologically, this can create a dependency on external validation. In daily life, it shows as taking feedback as a personal attack, feeling crushed by indifference, or dramatizing situations to remain the central character. It is triggered by being ignored, upstaged, or rendered insignificant. The subtle strength within this need is a powerful capacity for genuine, heartfelt generosity and encouragement. When your sense of self is secure from within, your natural warmth and leadership inspire others to shine alongside you. Next, the mutable earth. Virgo. Your core psychological weakness is critical hypervigilance. The root is an underlying anxiety about chaos, imperfection, or inadequacy, often directed first at the self. This develops from the Virgo archetype's drive to analyze, improve, and serve. In behavior, it manifests as obsessive worrying over details, a tendency to nitpick yourself and others, and difficulty accepting things as they are. It can lead to analysis paralysis and chronic stress from a self-imposed pressure to be perfect. It is triggered by disorder, mistakes, especially your own, and feeling unprepared. The hidden strength is a masterful eye for discernment and practical improvement. That very analytical mind, when applied with self-compassion, becomes the ability to create elegant systems and offer truly thoughtful service that we arrive at the cardinal air sign. Libra. Your core psychological weakness is relational enmeshment. The root is a deep-seated fear of conflict and isolation that can blur the boundaries of your own identity. This develops from the Libran archetype's quest for harmony, balance, and partnership. Psychologically, it can lead to people-pleasing, indecisiveness rooted in a fear of upsetting others, and absorbing the emotions of those around you. You may struggle to know what you truly want outside of what would create peace. It is triggered by discord, having to make a solo decision that affects others, or being perceived as difficult. The subtle strength within this is a profound capacity for diplomacy, fairness, and seeing multiple perspectives. When you learn to find balance within first, you become a true architect of harmony, not just a maintainer of peace. Now, to the fixed water sign. Scorpio. Your core psychological weakness is suspicious intensity. The root is an instinctual expectation of betrayal or manipulation, born from a deep understanding of the hidden layers in life. This develops from the Scorpionic need for truth, depth, and emotional transformation. In behavior, it shows as testing loyalties, holding grudges, interpreting neutral actions as having hidden motives, and building emotional walls to feel in control. It is a defense mechanism to protect your profound vulnerability. It is triggered by secrecy in others, superficiality, or any hint of deception. The hidden strength is unmatched psychological insight and regenerative power. That very capacity to see the shadow, when tempered with trust, becomes the power to facilitate deep healing and unshakable loyalty. We journey to the mutable fire. Sagittarius. Your core psychological weakness is commitment phobia to the present moment. The root is a philosophical fear of being trapped, limited, or proven wrong by a finite truth. This develops from the Sagittarian archetype's quest for meaning, freedom, and expansion. In daily life, this manifests as avoiding emotional depth in favor of intellectual breadth, restless, grass is greener, syndrome, and making promises your future self may not want to keep. You can unintentionally hurt others by bluntly stating your truth or by always having one foot out the door. It is triggered by routine, dogma, or emotional demands that feel confining. The subtle strength is in boundless optimism and philosophical wisdom. That very need for freedom, when focused, becomes the ability to inspire others with a vision of what's possible. We move to the cardinal earth sign. Capricorn. Your core psychological weakness is emotional austerity. The root is a deeply ingrained belief that vulnerability is synonymous with weakness and a threat to your authority or control. This develops from the Capricorn drive to build, achieve, and master the material world. Psychologically, this leads to suppressing softer emotions, valuing productivity over connection, and adopting a stoic, sometimes cold, exterior. You may struggle to ask for help or express need. It is triggered by failure, loss of status, or situations where you feel emotionally exposed and unprepared. The hidden strength is monumental resilience and unwavering integrity. That very self-containment, when you allow the walls to soften, becomes a responsible, grounded strength that others can truly rely upon. Next, the fixed air sign. Aquarius. Your core psychological weakness is detached intellectualization. The root is an underlying discomfort with raw, messy, personal human emotions, which feel chaotic compared to the clarity of ideas. This develops from the Aquarian archetype's focus on the future, the collective, and innovation. In behavior, it shows as retreating into the mind during emotional moments, appearing aloof or unfeeling to those who need personal connection, and prioritizing concepts over people. You can love humanity but struggle with the individual. It is triggered by intense, irrational emotional displays or expectations of conventional emotional reciprocity. The subtle strength is visionary objectivity and a commitment to progressive ideals. That very detachment, when blended with intentional heart-opening, allows you to solve human problems with revolutionary compassion. We conclude with the mutable water sign. Pisces. Your core psychological weakness is porous boundaries. The root is a profound, often unconscious, empathy that absorbs the emotional and psychic energy of your environment, blurring the line between self and other. This develops from the Piscean archetype's connection to the collective unconscious, spirituality, and unity. In daily life, this manifests as taking on others' pain as your own, escapist tendencies to avoid being overwhelmed, and a sometimes vague or confused sense of identity. You may struggle to say no or know where you end and another begins. It is triggered by chaotic environments, harsh criticism, or the suffering of others. The hidden strength is transcendent compassion and artistic imagination. That very permeability, when consciously managed, becomes the ability to heal, create, and connect to the deepest truths of the human experience. And so we have traveled through the psychological landscape of the Zodiac. But remember, these weaknesses are not life sentences. They are reflections, patterns, potentialities. Awareness is the first and most profound step toward integration. To know that your Aries impulsivity is a fear of irrelevance allows you to choose conscious action over reaction. To understand your Libra enmeshment as a fear of conflict empowers you to seek harmony from a place of inner balance, not anxiety. This is the alchemy of self-knowledge, transforming a reflexive weakness into a conscious strength. This is not about fearing your nature, but about understanding its depths. To work with your psyche, not against it. If you saw yourself in this exploration, consider what it might reveal about your own hidden patterns. If you feel compelled, share your zodiac sign in the comments below. What resonated with you? And if you seek to understand these psychological layers more deeply, consider subscribing for more content that lives at the intersection of the stars and the mind. Until next time.